الصالحين. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مباركا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا مباركا معصوما ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم انا نسالك رضاك والجنه ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم انك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا وعن والدينا ولجميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات والاحياء منهم والاموات برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الابرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. صلى الله على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. الحمد لله حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافي مزيدا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. All praise to Allah. Peace be upon Rasulullah. Salutations upon Rasulullah. And all of us, Ibadallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. We cordially welcome you for this seminar, talk on sustainable development in the Islamic framework. We have online listeners. Also, we have through Zoom. Also, we have face-to-face audience are here. Let us start with welcoming speech by the Director of Center for Islamic Economics, Professor Dr. Nurma Muhammad Saad. فليتفضل مشكور.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Dr. Muhammad Aslam Akbar, the moderator for today, Honorable Dean of the Kulliyah of Economics and Management Sciences, Professor Dr. Gairul Azmi Madgani, Head of the Business of Administration, Dr. Dul Hadi, respected guests, and distinguished participants. Welcome everyone to the Center for Islamic Economics and the Kulliyah of Economics and Management Sciences, IIUM. We are indeed honored and delighted today to host a distinguished speaker, Associate Professor Dr. As-Siddiq Muhammad Rahma from Imam Muhammad Islamic University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, who will be speaking about sustainable development in the Islamic framework. This topic is actually the title of a paper which Dr. Siddiq has published in 2016 in the Journal of Culture and Development in Egypt. Yeah, so we look forward for your deliberation on this topic. As the director of the Center for Islamic Economics, or more popularly known as CIE, I would like to give a brief background about the center. CIE actually started as a unit, as you have seen in the video just now, in July 2007, using the name of Islamic Economics and Policy Studies Unit. So Emeritus Professor Dr. Jamil Osman is one of the instrumental persons responsible for setting up the unit and then upgrading it to be a center. The establishment of CIE serves as a more effective link to take up research, training and consultancy activities, expanding the contribution of the Kulliyah of Economics and Management Sciences to a wider audience in one of the designated niche areas of the IIUM, that is Islamic economics and related areas. In addition, CIE also assists the university and the nation to produce and train professionals and support research and consultancy that attempts to integrate ethics and economics based on the vision and mission of IIUM. So the vision of CIE is to be the leading international center for research in Islamic economics and policy studies, and its mission is to conduct research, training and consultancy programs to enhance the development of Islamic economics, business studies, accounting, finance, and policy studies as a viable alternative to the Ummah and humanity in line with the vision and mission of IIUM. In addition to its role to expand the contribution of the Kulliyah in Islamic economics and related areas, CIE has been appointed as the Secretariat to support efforts by the Federation of Islamic Economics and Finance Education, IFIEFE, which was established in 2017 to realize the goal of developing quality and sustainable Islamic economics and finance programs. IFIEFE, or simply known as the Federation, has the following premier institutions as the founding members. Number one, International Association for Islamic Economics in Leicester, United Kingdom. Number two, Islamic Economics Institute at King Abdul Aziz University, Jeddah. And number three, Islamic Development Bank Institute, or formerly known as IRTI. And number four, Kulliyah of Economics and Management Sciences, IIUM. The latest addition as the founding member of the Federation is the Indonesian Association of Islamic Economics, an umbrella body that has about 320 Islamic Economics Association under it. Yeah. So in order to enhance the quality of human resource and infrastructures in institutions involved in Islamic economics and finance and also other related areas, and to promote Islamization or integration of Islamic heritage or turath in economics program and related areas, CIE has been organizing talks, workshops, symposiums, training camp, and other programs to achieve the above mentioned objective. Our recent program was a workshop in teaching macroeconomics with Islamic perspective, which had been organized in collaboration with the IPB University in Bogor, Indonesia, Triple IT, the International Institute of Islamic Thought, and also the Indonesian Association of Islamic Economists. In August of this year, inshallah, we will be organizing an Islamic economics training camp in Aceh, Indonesia, bringing together postgraduate students studying economics in Southeast Asian universities to expose them to various topics in Islamic economics. So if any of you are interested, later we will, when we distribute the poster, you can register. There will be a link for you to register. But you must have a research proposal because there is a section in the Islamic camp that requires you to present your proposal, research proposal, basically. So we hope that, I'm almost done, moderator. So we hope that with the presence of the Associate Professor, Dr. Muhammad Siddiq today, will serve as a conduit for future collaborations between CIE and its counterpart at the Imam Muhammad Islamic University in Riyadh, inshallah. So without further delay, I pass the mic to Dr. Aslam to introduce our distinguished speaker. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Nurma, for wonderful welcoming remark. Now let us dive into our seminar, the talk. So I have two jobs to do currently. First of all, I need to introduce the topic to you. And then as well, I need to also introduce the distinguished guest today. So the topic today we are going to discuss is actually the sustainable development in Islamic framework, which is quite interesting, and also recent time a lot of attention has been paid to this topic. Whether it is in business or in politics or in administration or in management, the topic is wide-rangely discussed topic, and there are sort of a lot of files and successes has been going on, and there are so many conferences has been happening, so many so far the United Nations is doing doing the task in the name of Sustainable Development Goal, which used to call MDG, now it is called SDG. So the question now is, we are facing a great danger, which is actually global warming, in a way that we are utilizing the resources, the way we make using it, or in a way I can say the way we consume, we became the reason for this planet to get warm, and it's keep on getting warming, and then the ice are melting and the sea levels are rising, and we do not know, after 10 years some of the islands will be disappearing. So the great danger is actually coming, and if we do not work on this, in a way I would see that maybe the Yawm al-Qiyamah will be coming very soon. In a way, the judgment day, we need to expect it as soon as possible. So in other words, I would say, if you want your future generation to do good a'mal, and if you want them to get into paradise based on their amal, then we also have the responsibility to keep this planet as practical, workable space, so that the future generation can do ibadah and can get the happiness in this world and also in the hereafter. So in a way, as a Muslim, we also have responsibilities, and this is what actually we are going to discuss. But let's say we can talk about the amana, the trust part. We can talk about al-adl, the justice part. We can talk about the khilafa, the vicegerents. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَكُمْ خَلَائِفَ الْأَرْضِ وَرَفَعَ بَعْضَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ دَرَجَاتٍ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا آتَاكُمْ. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of us in different way. Some of us rich, some of us getting a lot of resources, some of us getting very basic needs. It doesn't mean that Allah Allah want us to see that who is spending more. Allah really want us to see liyabluwakum fima atakum. Allah want to test whether He has given us a lot of resources. How are we utilizing these resources? So these are the teachings are there, but that are these teachings are good enough to continue to perform well in this sustainable development? This is the big question. That's because we are lack of frameworks. So this is what actually today the topic is going to address, whether we can talk about the conservations and the protection of the environment. So what kind of framework and model then we can apply or implement in our ummah? What kind of promotion or social economic development? What sort of renewable energy sources that we supposed to come up? What kind of sustainable agriculture it is necessary for us to do? What kind of water conservation that we need to talk about it, as well as we are using a lot of water, starting from masjid. We are doing ablution 5 times a day. So I just want to tell this to our speaker. It is quite fascinating when some of our masjid in Malaysia, I used to go to that masjid. It is called, in a way, it is called Masjid Hijau. Hijau in Malay, it's actually green. So they want to call it green masjid. This masjid is actually applying a sustainable development goal. And it's quite amazing to see. And in fact, they mentioned which numbers of the sustainable development goal we are following, how we are converting the resources into renewable energy, and how are we using the water, how are we consuming water. So the topic is quite fascinating, interesting, but still we are still, it's like a baby step. We are, as a Muslims, we are still getting into it, and hope inshallah today's our speaker will address all these issues so that we can understand what kind of framework can be implemented in future. So let me introduce our speaker. We are very happy, Prof. Associate Professor Dr. Al-Siddiq Talha, to have you in our campus. Welcome to Kulliyah of Economics and Management Sciences. Professor Siddiq Talha was born in 1955. Currently, he is working in Imam Muhammad Islamic University from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Originally, Dr. Siddiq from Sudan. He has a vast experience in the process of Islamization, the banking system in Sudan. He holds a PhD in developing studies, and he is considered to be a distinguished Sudanese researcher. Let me just tell you this, Prof. My supervisor also a Sudanese. I'm very proud of it. Professor Hassan Nagar. Currently, he went back to Sudan. Sudanese researcher in the field of financial banking and Islamic finance with extensive experience in the field of education, management, financial and banking work. He worked effectively in administrative as well for last 3 decades. He's been into development, cultural, scientific field. He wrote a dozen of books and articles. I have a long list. I'm afraid that if I read everything that, it will take the entire time of this seminar. Dr. Siddiq started working with Imam Muhammad bin Saud in 2013 as an assistant professor. In 2014, he became associate professor. And currently he is working as a professor in coordinator of the economics of public finance in the university for male and female students at the final class in the Department of Specialization of Economics. We are very happy to have you, Professor. فليتفضل مشكورا. بارك الله فيكم. Thank you very much. Yeah, this way. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله.
Thank a lot for this institution advised me to contact you today at this time, give you some discussion with Islam and sustainable development, vision a new global vision. The issue of sustainable development nowadays we common a lot of institution, academic, yes, to discuss this important issue, starting slides reveal the idea and we presented for further discussion of the issue of sustainable development and our vision to reveal it in the day life. Sustainable development become a common expression in recent years, which has been reduced to include the environmental and climate dimension. However, this concept includes more than that, as it requires the relentless pursuit of justice. Justice is one of the issues of Islam. As resources must be used wisely, and there must be equality in the distribution of wealth to bridge the gap between the poor and the rich. And the concept requires that decision making be done with integrity and transparency, since corruption and bureaucracy hinder development sustainable in any society. In this intervention, we present a model of sustainable based on Islamic principle, in which to explain that adherence to environmental responsibility, social justice, and good governance, rooted in the origins and sources of Islam. We argue that the inevitable step on the road towards sustainable societies is educating future generation on the values of sustainability derived from Islam. So that it tries to prove that some noble Islamic concepts and models are not only compatible with the current concept of sustainable development, but can also be applied as a means to inspire others for expanding participation in development process that does not stop at reducing poverty only. The term sustainable development was used for the first time in 1987 by the Portland Committee, and that means the ability to meet the need of the present without compromising the ability of generation to meet their own needs. Subject to idea of sustainable. The unity of origin and density, God Almighty created the universe for the benefit of all human beings. And God mightily made the earth's resources available to humans, who transferred to them the responsibility to preserve these resources and benefit from them in a rational way. Islam teaches us that there is a goal for this creation. And that humans are accountable and have responsibility as guardians of gods. They are responsible before God for all their deeds on the day of service. The Islamic economics model developed a set of strategies to address poverty, which included focusing on human development, self-control, quality of education, and capacity of building, promotion of development projects, profit and loss sharing in financing and investment, good governance for justice to address root causes of poverty, and social Islamic concept of the money. Islamic concept of money. The Islamic treats money as a means of exchange and not as a commodity. Riba used as a money, okay, not as a commodity, not money. And money becomes useful only when it is converted into a real asset, or when it is used to purchase service only. The Islamic concept man's authority, subsistence on the earth of necessity. That existence of a deep responsibility. And the Holy Quran considers that other living beings are also people or nations, as in the mighty saying, and there is no animal on earth, nor bird that flies with it two wings, but they are notion like it. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى وما من دابة في الأرض ولا طائر يطير بجناحيه إلا أمم أمثالكم. The paper also discuss the study of Islamic vision for the development within the framework of an enlightened Islamic discussion to address environmental and global issues. And Islam as a way of life is a mercy for all mankind. Provide some solution and ideas for the global debate on poverty, finance, human well-being, progress, and sustainable development. The good life and the role of man as environmental form from an Islamic perspective. That means we discussing this perspective as a main issue of discussion. As a good indicator of progress, we believe that Islam should not be seen as a mere religion only, but rather as a worldwide worldview, as a way of life, and address current global problems, including environmental crisis, through the preservation of a national and environmental resources, social development, and economic growth. All these can be subject for Islam. Then it identified the progress of societies with life with 5 pillars: national, social, human, financial, and technological industrial capitals, with which will lead to the sustainability of the sustainable development. The Holy Quran teaches us that all creation in the state of prayers, and which writer called the symbology of life, in which all creatures glorify God Almighty, who said in his book, and he is mighty, he wise, the wise. And according to the Holy Quran, the creation of the universe is a greater reality than the creation of mankind. And the earth is decided as the subject of mankind, but here it should be used responsibly. How not when the messenger, peace be upon him, they put prayers and peace be upon him, say, if the hour has come and one of you has some splint in his hand, then if he is able not to stand until the plants it, let him do so. It is important to highlight the principle of harnessing every positive energy to green the plant and invest the nature in nature as a part of the services through environmental management. And this example is considered good indication that Islam encourages positive action, hope, and optimism to deal with environmental risk, including climate change, pollution, desertification, and Islam view of the crisis that the nation suffered from. Islam views the challenges of the 21st century as a crisis of values. To realize the need to reconsider the foundation on which the entire structure of society was built. The crisis of economics, environmental, and political relations
is only a natural result of the values and institutions that distinguish modern civilization. Through an accurate understanding of Islamic social values in the context of the sustainable development, society based on values will be able to develop creative and innovative approach to meet the challenges facing humanity. Islam as a way of life deals with all aspects of human life and regulate the relationship between both humanity, human and nature. It is based on the acknowledgement of the oneness of God might and submission of man to his will alone. Hence, sustainable development and progress must be linked to Islam through the values that lead to the construction of the earth through justice that is compatible with domestic, environmental, and human justice, good governance, and benefits that means inner beauty and the development of awareness of individuals, organization, and society. Islam states that all human beings are created from different nations to achieve learning and social intelligence, that is to get to know each other according to what was stated in the Holy Quran, as well as to reduce harm and corruption, which is an indication of the deviation from the natural state, or what is called the instinctive and balance the God Almighty created. Islam view the challenges of 21st century as a crisis of values, as it realized the need to consider the foundation on which the entire structure of society was built. The crisis in the economics, environmental, and political relation is only natural result of the values and institutions that characterize modern civilization. The paper includes an explanation of the good governance and justice and consider them to be one of the main components of the sustainable model. Justice includes the three environmental and socio-economic domains. Deals with the concept of land and property, right and defiance, and the essence of and the framework of socio-economic justice in Islam. Islam consider the personal right to own property and views it as sacred right. From an Islamic perspective, human ownership is considered a matter of trustship, whereby the person has temporary authority to benefit from property, and that despite the framework of Islamic property right as a scared trust, and also promote individual ownership within the religious control government by the text of the Holy Quran. The paper clarified the concept of pollution, corruption, and climate change for an Islamic vision. Discuss the concept of pollution and corruption from an Islamic perspective. The unity of the universe and the humanity calls common density. The need of comprehensive transformational leadership to confront the potential threat of climate change, and the global discussion on climate change is intelligent by Islamic thought, as it has an effective role in that. On the one hand, an Islamic universe view on economic and financial development can be valued to enrich discussion regarding public policy issues, key aspects such as financial management, quality, and global governance. On the other hand, thus reducing environmental pollution and administrative corruption. The United Nations Environment and Development Committee concluded in 1987 on climate change that unless sustainable development become a global initiative, both human civilization and survival in the future will be endangered in 21st century. It will be insightful to consider in the role of sustainable development in the development of human civilization. The paper explains the need for the green jihad to be the main concern in sustainable development, which is the fight the imbalances, injustice, and corruption that distribute the instincts so that the Muslim community solves the optimal and balanced way of life as the model nation. As the main role of the nation is to ensure justice and balance in the universe by exercising the mission as a Khalifa of the earth, and made you mighty nation وجعلناكم أمة وسطا. For the religionists, the Holy Quran contains many verses and guidelines to inspire the human mind and imagination to learn from the system of the universe and nature. And Islam defines the rules and principles that provide the frame of references for policymakers and jurists to set budget and clear decision to ensure balance between public and private interests and encounter Islamic thought problem through the concept of closing ijtihad by religious scholar in the 3rd century, as well as ignoring innovation at the end of the 18th century. It's clear that this closure was part of a gap between Islamic law and the changing condition of the society. Perhaps the concept of the shackles of ijtihad came with a negative outcome and disrupted the intended march of Islam. And this requires thinking of to develop Islamic laws and principles in resolving contemporary issues, including global climate change, and to promote culture of ijtihad that was green requires difference, and then dealing objectively according to the variation of life and the development in the universe. There are multiple disciplines and unity, the social and physical science, interpretation and extrapolation of the balance between public and private interests in the light of the purpose of Islamic law, understanding the physical and social law, Sunnah, and its interdependence, clarifying the concept of sustainable development according to the calculation that management resources in a way that preserve and improve resources and the environment so that future generation can live a better and decent life. Sustainable development in the 21st century need to harness both technical, technological, and cultural ways of nation, information and communication technology and social media were the catalytic for the emergence of the wave of democracy. The Middle East or the Arab awakeness in 2011 through which demands for good governance, justice arose, and a new growing awareness of charity and a healthy social capital forms and the fight against corruption. This demand emerges through the voice of the young people in society, and all of them constitute the DNA of society rather it is sustainable development that societies aspire to. Achieving the sustainable development requires fundamental change in the economic and social system in Basel. And Islamic finance, in particular symbolic finance, plays an effective role in achieving the dimension of sustainable development. There is the relationship between sustainable development and Islamic financing formula, such as participation, speculation, sharing, robbing, and legal sales, such as sale of salam, murabaha, and they efficiently contributed to achieving the integration dimension of development, which is their aim to sustain the quality of human life and satisfy the need of current and future generations. And five, a positive relationship between them and Islamic financing formula, which aim to combat and reduce the phenomena of poverty and unemployment. These tools were to increase and diversity investment to satisfy the need of individual and reduce production costs. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very much, Dr. Siddiq Talha. It was an interesting points. There were so many topics actually to discuss in this title, because you have covered. In fact, you have covered from A to Z. Perhaps we can actually discuss this more during the Q&A session. You talk about the economic crisis where that is actually the fundamental point where actually the corruption started. Then you talk about the social intelligence. That was quite interesting to learn more about it. In fact, we have good governance and justice. You also indicate to those ideas. I like that one term that you used when it comes to human ownership. You said temporary authority. Authority is just for some time. It's a temporary. I think that is very important to understand, because the moment we buy something, we purchase, we own something, we think it is for us forever, and then we exploit in a way that is actually not being useful for others. In a way, we are actually using and throwing, use and throw, sort of things. So anything that we own, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us temporarily. The authority is that we are having. In other words, we can say relative ownership. It is not absolute ownership. And then you talk about pollution, corruptions, and climate change. Then you talk about the need, the requirement of a leadership in order to avoid administrative corruption. That is something that we are going through in every Muslim nation. We have this administrative corruptions, political corruptions. Then you brought the idea of middle nation, Ummatan Wasatan. That is a key word in my understanding of sustainable development in Islamic perspective. I think the Ummatan Wasatan is one of the most important element to discuss. In few places, Quran also talk about Ummatun Muqtasid. In a way, it is also a part of iqtisad, where we are talking about the economics. So these are the things. Then you also brought the term, which is something that interesting, because nowadays people do not want to talk about jihad, but this is something called green jihad.
That is something to give meaning to jihad. Jihad not necessarily something that you have to fight with others. You need to share bloods, not necessarily, because jihad, your jihad al-akbar is actually the jihad that you do with yourself. Jihad al-nafs. Yeah. So jihad al-nafs is the akbar al-jihad. So now this is something called green jihad. I like that term that we want to promote in a way that, how do we bring this? Uh, Clearly, it is not the red jihad anymore. It's going to be green jihad. All right. Then you also talk about innovations to bring in Islam promotes to bring all sort of maslaha. Then few Islamic terms that you used, which is actually also a part of discussion. It is very good to talk about. You talk about the purpose of Sharia, which we always look forward to learn more about it, how it is relevant to sustainable development. We talk about 5 P. We call peace in those peace, planet, people. And similarly, we also have something to do with maqasid, the purpose. Then the another is important word, I like it, which is actually you use the word sunan. This is something very important. This is not the sunnah that we talk. It is not similarly, we know about sunnah, of course, Quran and sunnah. This is sunan, which is sunnatullah. This is something that we don't talk much about it. In a way that this is the fitratullah. This is the fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. And there is a kullun ya'malu ala shakilatihi, kullun ya'malu ala shakilatihi. So I think it is something that everything on its own routine, on its own design. This is something sunan that we also need to understand when we talk about the planet, when we talk about the environment. And then, of course, finally, you brought the discussion on Islamic finance, where actually how that is something very relevant to this kuliya as well. Those who are very much interested to do work in Islamic finance, definitely there must be a purpose. How do we manage money? For what purpose? How do we bring products in Islamic finance? That is actually, I know we always talk about Sharia compliant when it comes to finance and economics, but this time we need to also talk about whether it is environmental compliant or not, whether it is sustainability compliant. This is something, the criteria that scholars also they want to add, to improve. They want to write more on this. Scholars also talk about halal investments and earnings, and halal in a way that it is also supporting the green. In a way, it is also supporting the sustainability issues that we are facing today. So that was a very good conclusion that you made it. And now it is time. I'm opening the floor to bring any discussion, to bring your feedbacks, your concerns. You might have some questions that you want to ask our speaker, Dr. Siddiq. You also have some opinions that you want to share. So one by one, please open your mic. First of all, I give opportunity to those who are here in our Ibn Taymiyyah conference room. Then we also open. We almost have 30 to 40 participants in online. I hope some of them, they might have some questions, concerns. So I hope. Okay, yes, paper. Do we have some extra papers, white papers? Notes. Do we have some white papers, something? Professor, can I ask? Yes. Let me have some papers because our speaker wants to take notes of your question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Siddiq, for your very illustrious explanation of the sustainable development from the Islamic perspective. In your opinion, okay, so what is the level of understanding of sustainable development among Muslim countries as it is now? because what has been said is actually issues on environment, pollution, and all this are also pertinent coming up from the Muslim countries. Okay? So I wonder to what extent the understanding of sustainable development from the Islamic perspective. Thank you.
Okay. The question here, Prof. Zulzastri is our staff here, and he is asking that what is the understanding of sustainable development or SDG or sustainability itself in Muslim countries today? We have many Muslim countries. It could be among OIC. So what is their understanding? How much they are getting the idea? Are they aware of the danger that upcoming? Do they know the potential how this sustainability issues going to be? So these are the questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We mean by sustainable development, the Islamic, the past thinkers and writers of economics not use the term of sustainable for different reasons. Most of radical and classical economy and news economists not discuss this issue. This is just starting after the Islamic economics emerged in the West. So related to vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For most of these titles of lectures and books about sustainable. Sustainable means that must be movable for future. For most of thinkers, Keynes, Marx, most of them not discussing for future. They're discussing around what is situation of economics. They define economics very good, but no definition for future, what is happening after. So, thank you.
Okay. Prof, do you have more questions? Yes, go on. Do we have? Yes, go ahead. Yes, please.
Thank you, Prof, for that highly compressed discussion. Few points that I was able to jot while he was discussing are very interesting to me, and I think we can discuss more around those issues. The first one that piques my attention is the predicament of the 21st century, the value crisis, and I think that summarized the whole discussion, that it is our value that has problem, the value we are operating with, the value orientation we have in this century has become a very problematic. And another one is the term he used, that says sustainability of sustainable development. I think this is a very core to the whole discussion as well, because if you are talking about a sustainable development, then how do we sustain that sustainable development we are talking about? And this, like we have shown us, has a lot of different dimensions to it. The first one, pollution, climate change, corruption, and justice. And likewise, let me say the last one here that I was able to jot is the issue of ijtihad. This has become very problematic for the Ummah, in the sense that any attempt to raise anything that looks like it is not traditional, they reject it immediately. And it is affecting us that we are not thinking outside the box as human. May Allah continue to bless you and discussion. This is just the little I have to say.
Yes, Prof. Do you have any follow-up comments? We just gave some feedbacks. You may add some comments to it.
I start with ijtihad. The issue of ijtihad. The issue of formation about Quran, Sunnah, ijtihad, and ijma'. These steps for how to repeat the action is not accepted or not accepted. But unfortunately, there are a time of span, lot of 100 years, that close. So most thinker or most imam said that ijtihad, no ijtihad, no ijtihad. Once he does Quran, no ijtihad. No sunnah, no ijtihad. But unfortunately, this is wrong. So that even Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed to Sahaba, or if the development, there's something not being now, you know, that car now is not in Muhammad. Mobile, not more. Definitely, they must have issue with Islam to agree to movement of the people. And know that, you know that the development and the agreement of the other starting and other most production type of traveling, you know that most people we use animal to move from. Okay, but now it's changed. Plane. Maybe ships that at that time would be created. But definitely they are all through having a new mechanism to move in different era, not in transportation. So that this is we discussed and we put the issue of ijtihad. Even ijtihad from the scholars, not ijtihad for any have ijtihad. No, because these they have some requirement of who mujtahid. يعني maybe an exam يعني look الازهر look other group institution. Nowadays there's a lot of information. You can read fiqh from laptop, no problem. But how can we evade it and try to put it under the ground and put it in the daily life? But if there are really ulama and discuss the issue from a lot of ground, نجمع الفقه الإسلامي مثلا, this is institution really fruitful and that can be هذا issue. هيئة المحاسبة والمراجعة الإسلامية, even مراجعة إسلامية but subject to فقه, not moving sources. يعني yes, maybe this group of accountants and auditors can be inside this meeting. Thank you.
Yes. Can we ask? Can we allow some questions from this side? Yes, please. Ask your questions or comments. You know that the topic is quite wide, and also it is common for every one of us because every one of us related to this topic. This is a common ground for all of us. So students, scholars, please, you can add your feedbacks, comments, your concerns or questions. Go ahead. Yes, Prof. Prof. Norma is asking.
I'm interested in the idea of green jihad that you have just mentioned. I think in order for, let's say, fuqaha to issue ijtihad or ruling on issues that concern the environment, perhaps the fuqaha that receive traditional training on Shariah per se may not be sufficient. Their knowledge may not be sufficient. So what kind of qualifications do you think might be required for fuqaha or scholars in order to issue fatwa with regard to green jihad?
When starting of Islamic banking, usually, yes, they are a good economists, good bankers, but there are a lot of cases need idea of fuqaha. So that nowadays they are meeting from savings. So that is needed. Yes, the issue is new, not traditional. But the fuqaha only idea about the principle of isdar al-fatwa, how can be get it out. That must be go to the other side as economists, as accountants, as agriculturists, all related according to each other. So nowadays all the grouping institutions or
that subject must be going through these two groups. Muslim fuqaha and non-Muslim, no problem. Refer it to what is action. Maybe use advisor from non-Muslim. Repeat them the cases maybe that must be had in the Western countries or Western economics. No blocking between them.
Yes, can we have few more questions, please?
I just add to Prof. Nomas. I think the whole issue of this sustainability from Islamic perspective is not so very clear, because the leader of sustainability is not the Muslim countries at the moment. It's still the West. Okay, so ESG, economic social governance, has been sort of ruled by the Western countries, and their parameters are actually not very Islamic in that sense. So our issue here is whether our scholars have sufficient knowledge to counter this issue of, for example, like pollution, solar, things like this, okay, from the Islamic perspective. Because if we, in the end up with making money, I just give you an example: electrical vehicles. Okay, now it's a craze of people using electrical vehicles, and whether that has been really been thought of in terms of the economic returns and the sustainability of present cars. So our issue here is really the understanding from the Islamic perspective. Is it sufficient enough to counter the Western thoughts on sustainability?
Now we agree that Muslim thinker can use Western people, no problem. But they are not prohibition, no riba. I reveal you when a big problem of the finance that facing USA, and nowadays came when that bank called Lemon Brothers as a big bank about 200 years. They came down. Why? They finance the people with riba. Okay, give the student use, give them house with 2 or 3 rooms, about $3,000. But these people can pay back according group of years. This 3,000, the bank put in his papers 50,000. Okay, that bank provides this finance for a group of youth. Their papers reveal that they a lot of money. Okay, the insurance company came to agree this bank is really good house. Okay, and at that time, by times, year after year, the main price of these houses came down. There's this crack habits, like what happened nowadays is Silicon Bank. The movement of Islamic Western, of Baba, most of them ask, where is the Islamic economy? They use Islamic economy now in West, not as a banking Islamic, but as an alternative. They use it as alternative, no problem. Leave it alternative, not Islamic. But actually, they use the model of Islamic bank. No banking, no riba, no rate of interest. And we know that all countries, when we raise the rate of interest, there are a lot of inflation, facing a problem of inflation. Thank you.
Yes, please, brother, you had a question.
Assalamu alaikum. I just want to start by appreciating the lecture presented by the Prof. Thank you very much. I found it very inspiring and also eye-opening also. talking about sustainable development in the Islamic framework. And part of what I look at the saying of Almighty Allah in the Quran, when he said that بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Under the prisons of this verse, how do we contextualize maybe the actions of humans towards nature and environment, and why to some extent humans are somehow rude to nature or to the environment or ecosystem in general? Thank you, Prof. Assalamu alaikum.
You know that this religion, this Islam, is the last religion. Okay? And even ayah, related to slope of the people, behavior of the people. If the people concerning with up, with God, and agree what's said, praying, fasting, a lot of items, definitely they are no problem. Problem concerning only when they are diversions. People themselves. It's increasing of the that might be diversion, and that يسهر الفساد, corruption, and other all things related to behavior of the people. Are we agree? Most of the people of this country agree with or no? Unfortunately, this is the main issue. So that Islam related to economics, to be a good, okay? Banking established with Islamic. Yani Islamic banking be built about the issue of deen. Now we study the people about Islamic banking, Islamic economy, that is related to Sharia, to maqasid al-Sharia. You cannot use it blah, blah, blah. So that if you want to reach in the last day, we must be concerning about the issue of Quran. When the Quran, how can I read Quran? When you read Quran, all through that may be near mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you for the question. Yes.
Thank you for the insightful lecture. The concerns I have is about what we have in recent times. You know, in the recent era we are in, most countries are clamoring for democracy. And the democracy means that you, the leader, you go according to the will of the people, because it's the people who put you in power. And as the nature of the human being is, which is to click on to power. And this is what we have actually seen in most of political leadership, that in one way is the leader who must steer affairs for us to reach sustainable development. At the same time, the leader is curtailed by the will of the people who want their wishes to be satisfied. And so it's what the people want that leadership is forced to do. And recently, people think about themselves. They do not think about the environment or sustainability. And so that is where the problem is. For a leader to stay in power, he will actually yield to the will of the people, which is contrary to sustainability. And so the problem I see is on one hand, the interest of political leaders to stay in power, and then on the other hand, doing things that are contrary to sustainability. Thank you.
I know my questions that related to
the government, okay, who these people to start through democracy and really an idea about sustainable development. You know that most of these leaders, you cannot be sure are really agree with Islam, agree with the state of Islam, agree with Quran or not. We can't predict as a democracy that is a good way to select leader of the countries. Yes, there are a lot of leaders, maybe Muslim sometimes for himself, but when he be a leader, one day he change his mind. So they have no step mainly so as to be control his activities when he be elected as a leader. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. A very good comment as well. That is the challenge actually what we want to identify and address. That's the reason why I think that the changes supposed to happen, it is not happening as we expect. It is in a very small scale. It becomes like not long term, long term. The changes that we are expecting. That's because they need to find a support from the people. They need to run the government. So either way, it will be affected. If you do something which people do not like it, they won't let you be there for you for the next term. Yeah. So this is the quite challenging part, and that is what actually comes with democracy. We understand that. Thank you for bringing that point. Yes, more points, more concerns, feedbacks. We have our. Yes, bro.
Okay, so let me just say something. For sure, when we talk about leader politicians, there are issues. But even if we have good leaders, we have good politicians. If we are not able to balance, we will also have issues. So currently, this university is leading the countries with regard to the. We are the consultants for the countries for the Sustainable Development Goals roadmap for Malaysia, phase 2. And in fact, if we look at the missions of the university has 7 missions. The second mission of the university is to serve to serve as an agent of comprehensive and balanced programs, as well as sustainable development in Malaysia and in the Muslim world. So this university, IIUM, have been talking about sustainable development since it started in 1980. It started in 1983, and it's already a part of its vision. So that's why, if we look at our educations, our curriculums, because we have a few questions talking about how do we balance. Okay, we have the scientific thing, talking about environment, talking about science, talking about economics, and then another part is talking about the Sharia. So if we look at the curriculums of this university, we are trying to find the balance between the two. In fact, we do have programs like double majors, Sharia and science, Sharia and economics. So we have started all those things so that we'll be able to get fuqaha, that will be able to talk both from the Islamic perspective and then from the but you're talking about science is also Islamic. So we are talking about they have the both world, looking at from the revealed knowledge, Islamic revealed knowledge. Then we are also talking about sciences. So that is the missions of this university. Hopefully, okay, we'll as we celebrate our 40 years anniversary, and later on, okay, as we'll become older, we still have that. We still have that mission of sustainable development, and we still have the missions of integrating the revealed knowledge and human knowledge and scientific knowledge. Okay, so for the questions talking about, okay, whether it's just if we have politicians and everything's going to be solved if our politician is good. But I don't think that is we'll be able to solve. If we look at sustainable development, we are talking about environment, we are talking about the people, we are talking about economics. Our moderator talked about the 5 P's of people, planet, prosperity, peace and partnership. One of the big issues, if we're talking about sustainable development, if we look at from policy making perspective, what we have not just in Malaysia but all over the world, whether all the departments are able to communicate with each other. Okay, if let's say we are talking about sustainable development goal, sustainable development goal number 2 is no hunger. Sustainable development goal number number 9 is on infrastructure. Okay, and then you have sustainable development goal on environment. So now the question is, if let's say you want to build road, okay, and you want to build road and the road will have to cross a paddy field. Okay, how do you make decision? Which one is more important? So it's not something that is easy. If you ask the politician which one, which is the best, so it's not something that is easy to answer, because there's a lot of trade-off. So it's not just about the politicians. If you get good politicians, will be able to solve. Okay, we also need to look at sciences. We need to know how do we rank which are the priorities. Okay, do we want to we have palm oils? We need palm oils in Malaysia. Okay, but for us to plant palm trees, we may need to cut the forest. So if we don't cut the forest, then we are not able to plant the palm oil. So those are some of the things that can make these issues of sustainable development something that is not easy. It's not easy to balance, because when you talk about sustainable development goal, Malaysia have been talking about sustainable development since the 1950s. We have our first Malaysia plan. First Malaysia plan talk about poverty. First Malaysia plan also talk about forest, talk about environment. First Malaysia plan also talk about economy. So we have been talking about that for a long time, and a lot of countries in the world have been talking about that for a long time. But the thing now is not easy to find. It's not easy to find the balance. Okay, so when you talk about Islam is talking about balance, ummatan wasatan. So sustainable development goal is also talking about balance. So if we are able to find that answer, okay, where is the balance? Then we'll be able to achieve a sustainable futures. Okay, I have a meeting with all the ministries this morning, a chat by the Minister of Economics. They're talking about where do we want to go, okay, with regard to sustainable development. So you have one ministry want to achieve their KPI, but achieving their KPI is going to harm the other ministry. Okay, so one want to build roads, okay, but the achieved roads going to cross paddy field. Okay, but if you cross paddy field, then you will not be able to plant paddies, then you are going to affect hunger. So that's where when we have all these people in the university, we need to find what is the optimum. When we're talking about economics is the studies on where to find the optimum. There will always be trade-off. So okay, whether A is better than B, B is better than A. So that is the question, and how to solve that. Then we have to look at democracy and all the other things that we have to look at. So it's not just about politicians. It's also talk about how do we make choices, and what is the case. Because sometimes both are good. Okay, but which one is the best? Okay, so in economic we have first best, second best. Sometimes we have the third best. Okay, so we have to choose what is the best. So when you talk about sustainable development goals, you talk about sustainable development, we are talking about choices. Sometimes the first best, the ideal, will not be able to achieve. You may not be able to achieve the ideal. So if you're not able to achieve the ideal, so what is the second what is the sometimes what is the third best. Anyway, so that's my opinion.
Thank you very much, Prof. Gairu. I think that is a wonderful closure actually, which I was planning to do, but you comprehended the closure. That was very good. But again, we also have some participants from online. If you have any questions, you can unmute and then you can ask. Anyone from online? If not, you can also type your concerns in the chat box. Then we can read it on your behalf. Yes, we have a question here. Go ahead. Mike.
From your submission, I related most of it to Africa and narrowed it to my country. It so happened that those who actually have knowledge of Islam are so different from those who have knowledge of economics and sustainability, and also with leadership. Those who can implement policies that would favor Islam and also narrow it to sustainability do not have interest in this regard. They do not have interest in merging Islam and sustainability. So like in African countries, how do we grow with these issues? Because most of the times the secular world influence our decision a lot. So how do we merge this kind of issues? Are part of the world.
It's a very good question. You know that yes, even Islamic banking in Africa, or Sudan also. The starting point of this banking use the traditional bankers, those working with a rate interest about a lot of years, 30 years, 40 years, all working for debit and credit. But the model of Islamic banking quite different. And even in Sudan, when the president acted after 25 years, those only, they change from rate of interest to cost of finance. This is minister, the government act a new issue or be changing from traditional banking to Islamic banking. They just change 2 ways, from rate of interest to cost of finance. Even when you know that Sudan, North Muslim maybe, with South non-Muslim, same country, so that the bankers of the Central Bank of Sudan issue South with 10% of its rate of interest, and from North put as murabaha profit 10%. Really, they are conditioned like this. After that, maybe after a lot of years, the people can be acquainted. The institution of fiqh is the bank and can issue, can discuss the cases. It needs a lot of time.
Thank you, Prof. Very good. So I think the idea, I think that Prof sometimes gives you very summarized answer, like a Jawami al-Kalim. But in a way, if I have to understand, you need to know that when there was a traditional finance, it can become to Islamic finance. Perhaps today it's a sustainability, maybe after 10 or 20 years. It could be Islamic sustainability. Perhaps now we don't have that much understanding how to unite people from both sides. We may have a lot of differences from both sides. The other shore is green, this shore is blue. Yeah, perhaps, but slowly it has to take. When it comes to, I know a lot of questions that you throw at religious scholars. of course, I have a lot of experience with them because I also came from that madrasa, that school. So of course, things it won't get quickly as what in academy. In academy, you see the differences between academy and madrasa. In academy, things are moving very fast, and academy will adapt or adopt immediately the new models, new ways and tariqah. But in madrasa, in the religious, among religious institutes, they will be very much careful in deciding what should be the next. In my understanding, back in India, there was a time, of course, I was not alive that time, many years ago, there was a time they refused to use paper currency. There was a fatwa back in India